Busted 25 behind bars including a police corporal, as cops move to dismantle deadly St. Catherine gang causing havoc across the island. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. Special welcome to those watching on onespotmedia.com. I'm Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, deadly weekend, 4 dead, 2 hospitalized in St. James bloodletting on Sunday.
Investigate them. NIA calls for MOCA to look into contract for police vehicles.
And in business news, another listing, VM Investments seeks capital IPO.
There's also sports commentary and weather in the Primetime package. But before the break, the feedback question.
What do you make of news that the police have dismantled the Uchens gang responsible for multiple crimes in several parishes?
Share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica and tweet at Television Jam.
Stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com.
A reminder as well that you can watch TVJ live by downloading our What's Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1, followed by the word Spot and Media.
First up this evening, a detective corporal and 24 people are behind bars in connection with a criminal gang that has obtained over $400 million in assets after wreaking havoc in several parishes.
The Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC, called a press conference today to announce they have dismantled the Uchens gang.
It's headed by a 27-year-old Uchens Wilson, otherwise called Terrence. Details from TVJ's Andrea Chisholm.
You name it, the Uchens gang has done it. Murders, shootings, robberies, rape in 7 parishes: St. Catherine, St. Andrew, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, Clarendon and Manchester. Obtaining 17 motor vehicles, including coaster and minibuses, 15 firearms, some of which were licensed.
Several household appliances estimated to be over $400 million.
Assistant Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey says the gang dates back to 2016 and is very organized, using tactics like that of a legitimate company, such as division of labor, assigning people to scout victims, cut a grill, drive the getaway vehicle, and even to shoot an individual.
In some instances, the victims are identified and selected by members of the gang who have been employees of some of the victims. They would stage their activities to incorporate inflicting minor injuries to their cronies during the robbery to avoid being linked to the crime. The proceeds of which will be shared among themselves, with the bigger portion going to the planner.
And when they do steal a motor vehicle, for example, it's scrapped.
They worked with a particular company, and I will not name it at this time, and significant portion of the stolen items were actually routed through that company and disposed of.
But since May 2017, the police have been hot on their trail, identifying 40 gang members.
We have 25 now in custody, arrested, and will be charged. That among those who were taken into custody were 3 females and 1 member of the JCF.
The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is working with the police to also charge them under the anti-gang law. ACP Bailey is encouraging those who want to leave gangs to speak with someone or call CTOC at 967-1389.
And we might be able to show you the path if we want to use it to purge your soul.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
At least one member of the Police Federation has sided with Prime Minister Andrew Holness over his controversial claim that the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, is overreaching its authority at times. Executive member of the Police Federation, Corporal Arlene McBean, not only agreed with the Prime Minister, but also called for him to lead an amendment of the INDECOM Act to prevent the overreaching. Ms. McBean was speaking at the funeral service for slain policeman Corporal Melvin Smith in Mandeville on Sunday. TVJ's Kalisha Williams explains.
Members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, out in their numbers, paying final respects to their colleague, the late Corporal Melvin Smith, on Sunday afternoon. Corporal Smith was recently killed while attempting to foil a robbery in Manchester. But while the cops mourned their colleague, they found time to applaud in agreement when a member of the Police Federation, Corporal Arlene McBean, took the podium. The main concern, cops putting their lives at risk to serve and protect citizens.
Hard-working men and women who continue to put their life on the line, who continue to leave their good homes and accept the deplorable conditions in spite of just to serve the citizens of this country.
Commissioner of Police George Quaylo, who was also in attendance, says the situation demoralizes the police.
So many times we hear some persons give some information in the media and they give just part of the information, the part that seeks to demoralize us as an organization. Whose interest do you serve?
Fingers pointing to the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM, Corporal McBean agreed with the Prime Minister's recent statement that the agency sometimes goes too far in carrying out its functions, forcing cops to hold back in their duties.
I want to express gratitude to the government of Jamaica for listening to the cries of the Police Federation and knowing that our police officers who are out there in the trenches and the gutters, who stand as buffers between criminals and citizens, must be represented at all costs.
She's calling for the Prime Minister to repeal the INDICOM Act, adding that it misrepresents the JCF and is too subjective.
Is it that an existence of an agency of 5 years is going to demoralize us? I say to the media fraternity, running to have press briefings and press conferences does not work. Running there to have statistics, that's not efficiency. We need an amendment of that act.
Over 900 police officers have been killed in the line of duty since the force was started. Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
4 persons are dead and 2 nursing gunshot wounds following a number of shootings in Glendevon, Salt Spring and Flank and St. James yesterday. One of the deceased has been identified as 21-year-old Romaine Robinson, alias Blacks, of Rough Road, Glendevon. It's reported that residents heard explosions along Dapper Lane in Glendevon and alerted the police. Mr. Robinson was found dead with multiple gunshot wounds. 55-year-old taxi driver Derek Buckner was also a victim. He was shot about 10:30 in the morning along the Salt Spring Main Road. Our news center was also informed that a woman, identified as 22-year-old Cherise Martin Corbett, was shot and killed at a Red Dirt in Flanker. A man was also shot and injured in the incident. The police say a man was also fatally shot in Mount Salem yesterday morning. The deceased has been identified as 44-year-old Raymond Dias, otherwise called Dallas, a laborer of Rose Heights in the parish. Mr. Dias was walking on Miriam Way with another man when they were attacked by gunmen about 10:15. They were rushed to a hospital where Mr. Dias was pronounced dead. The other man was admitted. These killings add to the more than 300 persons who have been murdered in St. James since the start of the year.
Employees of the Golden Crust Bakery chain in New York in the United States turned up for work today with pain and sorrow, days after the company's founder and CEO, Lowell Hawthorne, committed suicide. This report courtesy of ABC News affiliate in New York.
You could find Golden Crust beef patties in New York City jails, New York City schools, in 30 states across the country. A business empire led and founded by a Jamaican immigrant, Lowell Hawthorne. Today, workers, employees, family, and friends could not explain what prompted him to take his own life. At Golden Crust headquarters in Claremont, we saw hugs and kisses inside the corporate offices, while outside the warehouse, dedicated workers shipped and packed the beef patties that helped build an empire.
It's fresh and unimaginable, so that's the best way for me to put it to you guys. Try to imagine something that you would have never imagined.
Roughly 300 employees returned to work today with hearts full of pain and sorrow. Company CEO, 57-year-old Lowell Hawthorne, left a suicide note and then shot and killed himself Saturday evening inside the business he started 28 years ago.
He was a patriarch, a real businessman, man of peace.
Man of God.
And a man of God. That's what I want the world to remember, who he was.
If you read the note, and I'm not going to read it, you're right, it's handwritten by him. People in his family identified that's his handwriting, and it's about a legal side issue where he pretty much states what's going on in his life.
Completely out of character.
Is that what makes it so difficult?
Of course, just stunned and shocked. I still haven't gotten over it.
Employees said they know nothing about claims of tax evasion or failure to pay overtime to company workers. They did tell us about a man of integrity, a pillar of the community, and a business visionary who created the largest Caribbean franchise chain in the country with more than 120 stores.
Companies go through hills and valleys, you know, and we made it through almost 30 years of hills and valleys, and we've always made it moving forward.
Mayor de Blasio called Lowell's achievements monumental and a beautiful immigrant story. Mr. Hawthorne himself, as well as his achievements, the funeral arrangements have not yet been finalized.
Our top story this evening, busted 25 behind bars, including a police corporal, as cops move to dismantle deadly St. Catherine gang causing havoc across the island. Still ahead, health resources still under pressure due to motor vehicle crashes. And in business news, VM Group announces move to raise capital in an IPO for its wealth arm VM Investments. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. National Integrity Action, NIA, is calling for the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, MOCA, to investigate the non-delivery of police vehicles despite a contract issued to O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental. In a statement this afternoon, the NIA asserted that government procurement and procedures were compromised either through incompetence or lack of due diligence. NIA is recommending that the matter be placed in the hands of the Office of the Contractor General and MOCA with oversight by the Prime Minister. Our news centre reported on Friday that the Contractor General is to conduct a probe into the matter. NIA adds that it is also taken aback that although the Ministry of National Security initially told O'Brien's that its request for GCT and SCT for customs clearance was not considered favourably, it sent the request to the Finance Ministry for a waiver, which was rejected. In the meantime, the People's National Party, PNP, in a statement today, called for the government to explain to the country the implications of the revelations by the Ministry of National Security that it has moved to redeem the performance bond of $40 million, which was provided by O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental as a guarantee for the contract to provide 200 used vehicles for the police force.
The Executive Director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Audley Gordon, says some communities in the corporate area should see an improvement in garbage collection by the end of this week. This with the hope that work on the access road at Riverton disposal site will be completed by Wednesday. He was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning. TVJ's Anthony Lugg reports.
Garbage has been piling up in several communities in the corporate area in the past month. But why? Executive Director at the National Solid Waste Management, Audley Gordon, speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program on Monday, said the roadway leading into the Riverton disposal site was damaged by the recent rainfall.
We have trucks being stuck on a daily basis.
Stuck in
holes and things that have, because the earth is soft, you can understand. So we have to be using heavy equipment from time to time to even pull out trucks out of the...
so that is slowing down the disposal.
Right. So the trucks take a while to get in and out of the disposal site.
The issue of uncollected garbage is one that has always resurfaced at this time of the year. So is the access to the road the only cause, or is it a resource issue?
There is always the issue of resource. We are not a rich country, and our solid waste management apparatus is a very expensive apparatus to maintain.
Yes.
People don't know the cost that go into repairing of these trucks, to service these trucks, to fuel these trucks. We spend upward of $20 million a month on fuel.
Yes, but what do you say to the Jamaican taxpayer who says, I'm paying my taxes, we understand it's expensive, but we expect basic garbage collection as our right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's what
an efficient service.
Right, and that's what we are fighting to do. We want to give a good service, and in large measure we have managed to maintain our schedule at once per week.
Mr. Gordon points out that remedial work on the access road at the Riverton disposal site should be completed by Wednesday.
The trucks will be going in and out at a faster rate by Wednesday, because we should finish the works, the temporary works, by tomorrow. Now I stress temporary because what is needed is a permanent fix to the roads. We don't have the resource at this time, neither could we attempt to undertake a permanent fix during the holidays, because Christmas time we generate upward of 70% more garbage. Sometimes we even double in some areas the amount of garbage intake.
He says the NSWMA will be sourcing additional tipper trucks for the Christmas period to help. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Chinese ambassador to Jamaica, Niao Yingbao, is indicating that Jamaica's dire financial state is behind the resurgent relationship with China in recent times. Mr. Niao was speaking at the inaugural staging of the charity ball hosted on the weekend by the Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis. TVJ's Lana Gay Franklin reports.
The Chinese government is responsible for the construction of the North-South Highway and has pledged to provide a preferential loan to Jamaica for the construction of the Montego Bay bypass. Chinese Ambassador Niu Qingbo says this loan has interest rates which are below normal commercial rates. Mr. Niu was speaking during his keynote address at the inaugural staging of the Mayor's Charity Ball hosted by Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, at the Montego Bay Convention Center on the weekend. China Harbour Engineering Company Limited is expected to invest in the bypass, for which construction will begin early next year. Prime Minister Andrew Holness had previously indicated that travelling on this bypass will take motorists some 8 minutes from one end of Montego Bay to the next.
While China is blessed with companies of financial resources, expertise, and disciplined workers. So in the last few years, Chinese companies have been doing business in Jamaica, mostly in infrastructure, because infrastructure is very costly and the payback takes time. So usually it's the government that has to invest. But since Jamaica is in debt, right, you don't have a lot of room for loans, for borrowing.
The Chinese ambassador to Jamaica is also urging other Caribbean countries to emulate and replicate the relations between Jamaica and China. He says Jamaica and China are celebrating 45 years of diplomatic ties, and this partnership is a role model for countries around the world.
We are seeing this China-Jamaica partnership growing from strength to strength. In the old days, we were very respectful of each other, but economically we had little cooperation because we were so far away. The world was far less connected than it is today. But nowadays, with new technology, with more resources available, China and Jamaica are cooperating in many areas.
He also added that the Jamaican-China seafood market is opening up with new opportunities for Jamaican fishermen.
We've just reached agreements that will allow for Jamaican exports of seafood to China and lobsters. Jamaican fishermen will have to work hard to satisfy the appetite of Chinese, because this is a growing market.
Lana Gay Franklin, TVJ News.
In spite of a reduction in road fatalities this year, medical professionals say the resources at health facilities are still being put under pressure to treat victims of vehicle collisions. Now, the head of one hospital, which is near a major highway, is calling for more public education on road use as a solution. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell explains.
According to the Health Ministry, from January to March of this year, 172,768 persons showed up at the Accident and Emergency Department at health facilities across the island. And Falmouth Hospital in Trelawney gets at least 46.9% of their cases in the A&E. Most times, this is due to road traffic crashes. These road traffic crashes involved motorbikes, cars, and pedestrians. This is costing the health sector millions of dollars each year. Acting Senior Medical Officer at the Falmouth Hospital, Dr. Abigail Crichton, says with the health facility located next to the North-South Highway, it sees quite a number of these victims.
I would say more 2 to 3, whether they be minor or major accidents. We do get accidents coming on a daily basis, more or less. We do have time when we have major accidents. And that's when we tend to have mass casualties in the A&E department.
Dr. Crichton says not only does it cost the health sector, but it also puts additional pressure on the Accident and Emergency Department.
This would be accidents which would be varying levels of casualties, but coming on already at A&E department, where sometimes in a 24 hours we can see upwards of 100 patients per day. So as you can imagine, that's an increased workload or burden on a department that is already overwhelmed.
She says to tackle the problem, it would have to be from ground level. So there needs to be more awareness on road usage because with limited resources at the facility, they are unable to keep up.
So the sheer numbers of accidents, population education in terms of safety, driver safety and stuff. But then when we're having the actual accident in and of itself, the patients already have to come into hospital. The only thing we could ask for at that time is just increase. We would need increased human resources, increased nurses, increased doctors to properly staff the hospital to meet this demand.
Jamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
Chairman of the Savannah Lamar Hospital in Westmoreland, Eric Clark, says the hospital is running short on oxygen. Mr. Clark says part of the problem is that the hospital is the only institution of that size to be without piped oxygen on its wards, with the exception of the neonatal ward and the operating theatre.
I don't know if you all know all these big medical oxygen cylinders and trucks. We move a little over 100 of those a month. Now, it's a big physical stress to move them around. They clank into everything and damage every wall. But the logistics of having them around, it just really, we need to move forward with times now.
In addition, Mr. Clark says the main supply is now having problems supplying the Type B facility with the piped oxygen. However, efforts are being made to see how best the problem can be addressed.
And at certain days we are running close to running empty on medical oxygen, which is critical. I've told the minister that to me, if something is not done, it's a matter of time before we lose a life for something as simple as not having medical oxygen available.
In this week's edition of A Ray of Hope, the gift of a well-needed computer lab.
A Ray of Hope is brought to you by Courts. Get courts protection in the event of redundancy, accident, flood, or theft.
761. That's the number of students from the Fair Prospect High School in Portland who have received a well-needed gift, a brand new computer laboratory, thanks to the United States-based charity RCM Development and Community Service. The laboratory, which values over $15 million, has 22 computers, desks, and chairs, along with a central server in a refurbished air-conditioned room. Chairman of RCM Development and Community Service, Roy Reed, whose mother lived next door to the school, named the computer lab in her honor.
Isn't this school, Fair Prospect High School, a gift that they will always cherish? And we're hoping that the students will make use of this opportunity to propel them in computer technology. It is so important for them to understand that this type of exercise is for their benefit, for them to utilize tomorrow, next year, and years to come.
Information technology teachers were pleased with the gifts, which will benefit more than 80% of the students at the school.
It's going to ease my workload a lot because before now I challenge with the students. I had challenges with them taking their laptop to school, so it's going to be much easier for me.
The students believe they were given a ray of hope.
Like example, SBA is doing some students don't have the advantage of having computers at home, so I see this has been very essential. I'm very happy that the school has been given these utilities and students have a chance to do schoolwork better.
Morton Owens, the treasurer of RCM, encouraged the students to take care of and make good use of the items.
It is the responsibilities of the students at Firm Prospect to utilize the lab. We want them to be able to have that digital divide, be able to connect with the world. And we're almost sure that the faculty and all the people that work here will help and assist them to get this done.
With a ray of hope, I'm Jeline Pearson.
A Ray of Hope is brought to you by Courts. Get courts protection in the event of redundancy.
And time now for the responses from our friends on Facebook and Twitter. And Archie is at the smartboard.
Thanks, Doreen. Here is our question today. We're asking, what do you make of news that the police have dismantled the Uchense gang responsible for multiple crimes in several parishes? First comment from Laverne Johnson, who says, never heard of this gang, but it means nothing. Look at who is involved, all police. So how can we put a dent in the criminal underworld when those who are supposed to be maintaining law and order make up the gang? Giovanni Heron says, I must applaud the lawmen. They have been facing a lot of criticisms lately. A lot more work to be done though, but it's a step in the right direction in tackling this crime problem. Khalid Cole saying, it's the first time hearing of that gang, but any gang being dismantled is a good look. Community and nation building. We like it. And finally, Radine Edwards, who says, remarkable steps by the police officers who have apprehended the dangerous and deadly gang members. It's just a major progress. On a whole, more major activities like these need to be done to all dangerous gang members. Keep your comments coming on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and your tweets to @TelevisionJam. Business news and news from overseas after the break.